Hello, everyone. A huge welcome to our first episode of our brand new series, Voice of Change, Global Perspective on Educational Reform. I'm Shruti, and while I do have the mic for the intro today, let's be clear. This isn't a solo act, no. This series is powered by three passionate voices from three different corners of the world, all coming together to shape up the conversations around. So, what's this series all about? Well, we all know the world of education is changing fast, like blink and you will miss it fast. From AI and automation to rethinking assessments and finding the sweet spot between technology and human connection. Educators everywhere are asking the same questions. Where do we go from here? What's working? What's broken? And how do we actually build a future that works for students and teachers alike? We created Voice of Change because no matter where you are in the world, the struggles and the dreams are surprisingly similar. And together, we wanted to open up a space that's bold, honest, and a little bit rebellious, where we unpack these challenges and share real global insights. Now, let me introduce my incredible co-hosts, who, trust me, you're going to love as much as I do. So first up, we have Pablo from sunny Spain. Pablo is the founder of Generación Futura. Do not mind my pronunciation, it could be different. We'll hear it from Pablo himself. A powerhouse coach, mentor, and teacher trainer who is on a mission to help educators not just teach, but thrive. He spent over a decade inspiring teachers to rediscover their purpose, ignite their spark, and build the kind of classrooms that are human, current, and full of heart. And Pablo doesn't just talk about change, he makes it happen. Whether it's personalized coaching, in-depth training, or simply asking those big, soul-stirring questions like, why did you become a teacher in the first place? And are you still connected to that fire? He's here today to bring the same magic to our global conversation. Next, we have the one and only George from UK. George is an education specialist, consultant, and trainer. And fun fact, certified desert and donut connoisseur. He's got a sweet tooth and a sharp mind. With 3 decades of experience, George has seen it all. He's on a mission to eradicate bad leadership and build schools where people actually want to work and grow. His motto, wellbeing is way more than Friday biscuits. It's about culture, connections, and creating workspaces which both staff and student can thrive, not just survive. He's a game changer both in corporate and education settings, and he's bringing no nonsense, all heart energy to every episode of this series. So that's us, a team of 3 from Singapore, Spain, and UK. Different backgrounds, different systems, but one shared mission to challenge the status quo and reimagine the future of education together. So, Pablo and George, welcome to the wild ride. Are you guys ready to stir things up today?
Oh,
Always.
I am strapped in and ready for this roller coaster that's about to happen. Boom, absolutely.
Amazing. All right, so we're going to talk about AI, automation. We're going to talk about a lot of other things around artificial intelligence today. But before we do that, I have one question for both of you. What's lighting you up the most about where education technology is headed right now?
What's lighting me up? I love that expression. I think it's just the sheer possibilities. I suppose if we're talking about AI and everything that comes with it, from my little understanding of it, obviously, but it just gives you such capacity to be creative with it and just to see how best to put it into a classroom, how best to use it with your teams, how best to perhaps use it in a systematic way within your institution. I think it just brings, it almost feels like when you get like a new game or a new set of flashcards or a new set of something for the classroom and you're like, oh, how many different ways can I use this? I think that's what excites me about AI and educational technology. at the moment.
Lovely. George?
Well, I have to agree with my good friend Pablo, because the endless possibilities, I think, is what excites me. I'm still amazed. I use AI, multiple times a day in all different contexts, and I'm still amazed at how marvelous it actually is. And particularly now, I've been using it for a while, that AI has learnt my theme, my style, and it actually is now writing even better than it did when I first started using it. And I think there's an element, and I think this will probably come out in a few moments, but there's an element of people that are still really scared to use AI.
Yes.
And it's just taking those first few steps into it. And that is so exciting. When somebody sees AI for the first time, that reaction and that response is ultimately the part that I guess lights me up.
From both of your countries' lenses, what's been the boldest or the most surprising shift you have seen in the last few years, considering educational technology in place?
Mine is actually a really simple one, and that is this contradictory thought process around writing school and end-of-term reports, where actually teachers are using it for efficiency, for accuracy, for consistency, but parents aren't necessarily happy with it. They don't feel that it's personalized enough. And I think that bold movement of some schools saying, we are using AI, we will be, using this as a summary of your child's progress, as a summary of learners, outcomes, that I think is the biggest, boldest movement at the moment. And, on reflection to that and extending that thought process, is another element about actually using AI to generate lesson planning. Is it taking away teachers' creativity, or is it enhancing teachers' creativity?
Well, thank you, George, for that, because I think, so coming from Spain, I want to be as objective as possible, but that might be challenging. In my opinion, I want to make it clear, this is subjective. In my opinion, I think the Spanish education system is very, very, very slow moving in a systemic way. Policies are, in my opinion, not always made with or by people who know what it's like to be in the classroom or what implications it might have in the classroom. So the innovation or to use the words in the question, the shifts that happen in class, I think, are due to the teachers themselves who try to innovate and still remain within what is, dictated by the law itself. So things like using AI for lesson planning, I'm not aware of to what extent they're actually being used like that. I don't know to what extent they're being used for reports. I think we could learn a lot from it and implement it as well. What I do know is that the state exams, so to be a public school teacher, public school being a school that is funded by the government, you have to go through oposiciones, it's called, which is like state exams. And George would appreciate that. And a lot of the stuff that you do for that is to design an actual course, a program, a syllabus in a specific context and whatnot. And there has been a massive development of AI tools that just put those together for you. Yeah. So again, we have that debate of is that just procedural? Is that just doing the heavy lifting, or is it taken away from the creativity and understanding why you're doing this here, and then why you're following up with that, and how that links up to this, and then how that changes your evaluation? So it opens up that debate. But honestly, I wouldn't be able to sit on one massive shift or one shift that has been done nationwide with regards to AI.
Let me echo that, I think, Pablo, in the UK, where actually systemically we aren't ready. We don't feel ready. We don't feel that we can take that leap into the next stage. And I would, question really when that's going to happen, because it needs to happen. It's going to happen. This is the way the world is shifting. And I look to other countries, I couldn't name any, but there will be other countries out there that have said, you know what, let's embrace this AI. Yeah. Let's just go for it and completely use it safely and effectively in these ways to make our role far more efficient and, purposeful, impactful, etc.
No, I think UAE is doing a pretty good job when it comes to kind of integrating it with the strengths of the teacher or with the strengths of the education system. I think that's one of the countries. There might be many, but the things that I have heard about UAE implementing AI, like its strength rather than something to be scared of, especially in education system, that is something that we can all learn from, maybe.
Thank you, Shruti. That's something, I think it links very well with, I realized that a lot of the conversations that are being had or that I've been able to be a part of or listen to revolve around the idea of, how can the use of AI be a detriment to education itself? So it's almost about finding out how to not use it and what's acceptable use from it. Because let's be frank and clear about this, our students use it the same as we do, right? I've got to write an essay. I'd rather write it in 10 minutes than take a whole 2 hours writing it. And then I'll just go through it and then see what it's... So I think a lot of the conversations are, to what extent is that acceptable and constructive towards learning, and how can we prevent it being used as just an easy way around things?
I think...
So I'm not sure that we're at the position yet to... This is a strength. How can we make it stronger? How can we build upon it? I don't think that I've been in conversations like that yet.
Which then is almost by not using it, flip it the other way, by not using it, what do we miss out on? What is its benefits, I suppose? Yeah, absolutely. Very interesting thoughts, Pablo.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, I don't think we'd be doing anybody any harm in teaching them how to use this technology.
That was my point,
Right? Thank you.
Use it properly. Learn how to use it effectively, efficiently, safely. That's the key thing. Understanding the prompts.
Every technological advancement that we have had in the world, I think we were taught to use anything in a certain manner to benefit or, to have advancements and things like that. But with AI, it has gone a bit more, and people are scared. Of course, we need to be scared of something, but not in a manner where we are threatened of something that we have made. I mean, there could be a lot of opinions on it. It's just that, just like every other technology was taught to use, this also needs to be taught in classes and to the students and to the teachers, everybody. Yeah.
I totally agree, Shruti. Yeah, let's not forget that behind all of this AI, at least as far as we know, there are human minds, right?
Yes.
Making it work, making it do things.
Yes, of course.
At least
humans are programming it. Yes.
And I think the teaching of how to use these skills is invaluable, because whenever anything else comes along, then you would have had some experience on being able to critically assess or evaluate. Oh, yeah, well, I'm going to use this like this, and okay, this has its use, it's this way. So I think it's a great vehicle to be able to teach life skills, essentially. That's
true. That is true.
It's very exciting, and I'm looking forward to the whole, we don't know what's next. When I was a young lad and I wanted to be a teacher when I was older, I remember thinking, gosh, there'll be a day when I can sit at my desk and write something and it will just happen on the board. And now that is almost antiquated because smartboard is like irrelevant now. Everyone's got them. Everyone does this, and this. And it's insane what actually can happen. So, gosh, that the learners that we're working with at the moment, they're going to retire in year 2075 or something like that. What on earth is technology and the education system going to look like then? How do we prepare for that era of their life? Impossible, insane.
Yeah.
So, good foundations, good principles, good values and vision, and all of that, I suppose, would be my...
I think by the end of every conversation, it boils down to two things: ethics and values. No matter whatever technology we're talking about, or what is happening in the world, or whatever discussion that we look at, everything boils down to two things, is what my opinion is, I think. Yeah.
I'd agree with that, Shruti, because ultimately, I think those are the lighthouses, right? Those are the guiding lights, essentially, that I would think govern society and humankind, really. ultimately. Whatever use you make. I'll tell you, I'm going around this a long way around, but I was having a conversation yesterday about a workshop that's a collaborator's gonna do, and it's about emotional needs.
Yeah.
And how 80% of decisions are made emotionally. So, and it just reminded me that that particular thing, I don't know if that's true or not, or if that's been investigated or whatever, but I can see myself aligned with it, you know, because I'll give a practical case. Say you're marking an exam and you don't know whose it is, right? And you're a lot more objective about it. You get to the end and you see the name, and then you automatically have another impression about it, right? You might grade some. We try not to, and I work in evaluation and assessment as well. So you try not to, but you are inevitably somewhat, as part of your job, to be as objective as possible and to adhere to the criteria. But that emotional connection that you might have to that person can very easily have an influence. So,
or the other way as well, where you think, "Gosh, that should have actually been better than that. Why is it like this? I expect more from them." Yeah. Sorry, Pablo. Yeah.
No, not at all. Not at all. So, when you were saying, Shruti, it boils down to ethics and values, I think that ultimately everybody knows if something is right or wrong, right? You ask anybody, whatever culture, you know, I don't know, this would be an interesting experiment to carry out, really. But that is, I think, what has to prevail, really.
Yeah, that's true.
Despite whatever technology, whatever we're teaching, I think that has to be the core. And I wonder to what extent that's been a focus, at least in my experience of educational systems that I've gone through.
Absolutely.
George, do you have something?
No, I think Pablo summarized that beautifully.
That's good.
On a very summarized a tangent beautifully.
Yeah.
Beautiful. But that's the whole purpose of these discussions, isn't it? It's about exploring an idea and just seeing where your mind and your experiences of situations take you, and the thoughts and discussions.
Well, if I may then, I don't want to veer off too much more. If I do, bring me back in. But this is something that I've been actively just experimenting on. If I ask you, and anybody that's watching or listening, to think about one or two teachers that you remember, somebody popped into your head already?
For the right reasons.
For the right reason. But this is it. For the right, you might get both. You might get one or two. But what was it about that teacher that made you think about them? And I'd wager, again, I'm not collecting any data on this, which I should, but I'd wager it'd be how they made you feel is what you remember, as opposed to what techniques they used and how much technology they integrated in the classroom.
Connection, absolutely.
Exactly. So it's not how you teach or what you teach, is how you make people feel. I think it's my...
No, very
I want to know the teachers. I want to know.
You want
why.
to know?
I mean, yeah.
What teachers you've thought about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, do you know, mine's probably a teacher in year 4. When I was in year 4, which in the UK is 8 and 9-year-old. And it would just be because he was so much fun. And now he's a good friend of mine on Facebook. And he doesn't teach anymore, which I was really upset about. But I think it was absolutely that, Pablo, you know, gave opportunities, made learning a bit more exciting. I could see its relevance. It was the year that we did the school play, and obviously I was cast very high, of course. And it was just one of those, the reason I say, of course, is because he kind of believed in that and therefore gave me that opportunity and that experience. So, it's that whole, I've opened my eyes to other ideas and creative thinking. Quite possibly, one of the reasons. And if I was to flip that to the negative reasons, I would remember people and teachers because they're a bit of an old dragon, or, you know, but equally you have respect for them because I wanted to prove to them and make them feel that I was doing a good job. Yeah. So I wanted to prove that I could do it.
That's nice. Yeah. I get that.
I think you just
John got
lagged,
stuck.
George.
Yeah.
You got stuck whilst you were pulling a face. I think we've got to keep that on there.
Yes.
Yeah, just for people to
Keep that in the
enjoy it
bloopers.
as much as we did.
Absolutely.
How about you, Shruti?
Pablo,
Who
your
were your
Spanish
teachers?
teacher must have been excellent.
My Spanish teacher?
Yeah, it must have been brilliant. What would she teach you?
Well,
Because you
actually, do you know
Spanish.
what? Teach me how to flirt in Spanish. Is that what you asked?
No. What would she teach you in Spanish? Because your
What would she
Spanish
teach you?
is exceptional. So
You are asking me, George. You're not asking Shruti. Oh, okay.
No.
Well, actually, I was thinking about my primary school teacher. We moved towns. We went from a town into a village when I was 8, and it was a rural school. So we actually had 2 years together in the same classroom. So we'd have so in my class, in my year, there's only 10 of us. And then in the year below, there was like another 12 or 13. So it was a really good experience. And my primary school teacher, Don Manuel, was, what I remember about him was that he was very rarely sort of rattled by anything, and we were, I came from a town, so I was perhaps a little bit, let's say, more civilized, and having an English mum, well, then I perhaps had a few more manners and know how to be and sit straight at the table and whatnot. But, it could very easily descend into chaos there, just out of pure energy, really. But he was never really rattled by it. And the way he always had, I suppose with those numbers, he always had time for all of us. To sit down, to really
human connection.
Indeed. But at the same time, I remember towards the later years of primary school and then moving into secondary school, I remember also being a little bit scared of him, because he'd do this thing. Oh, I don't have any glasses near me. He'd do this thing where he'd like pull his glasses down to here, and then he'd look over his glasses at you. Right?
Oh, okay.
And
Got
he'd
it.
do things like that, and he'd just kind of, I don't know, somebody else who'd call somebody, typical Spanish name, let's just say Antonio, come here. And then, we'd be doing our activities or whatever, and then Antonio would just kind of like go, we'd all be thinking, why? What's happened? And then he'd go up to his desk and he'd pull up, he'd look over his glasses and be looking at his notebook that he'd been correcting or whatever. And I remember kind of like feeling, I was like, oh, my days, I don't want to be called up like that. So I did all I could to make sure that my homework was perfect and my notes and whatnot.
I'm sure it was brilliant, Pablo. I'm sure your homework was excellent.
But if I can also talk about, I don't want to bite into Shruti's time either.
No, it's
Another
okay.
teacher. So fast forward about 10 years. So I was 16, and I was in the UK doing sixth form. So I did the international baccalaureate at a school in the UK. And
Wow.
Which by chance, Shruti, is about 15 minutes from where I live now. It's bizarre. It's bizarre how close that is. Anyway, sorry, Shruti, Pablo.
Yeah, for the record, George and I have never met in person. We just met online. Thanks to Shruti and Selling Club. And then
Thank you, Selling Club.
We put all of these things together and we're like, George, it's bizarre that we've not just like crossed paths at any point.
We must have been in the same air at some point. We must have been.
Indeed. So fast forward to this other school, and I'm at sixth form, and I remember, I don't think she'll mind, Miss Braddock was her name, my English teacher, and I remember writing my first essay. I think we were reading 1984 by George Orwell, and we had to write an essay on something rather. I can't remember what the essay was about, but I went and hand wrote my essay in about 2 sides, so just like an A4 side on each, and I just handed that in, and she did pull a bit of a funny face when I handed it in, and I thought, well, I wonder why. Of course, I didn't realize all of my other classmates had like typed theirs, and they'd done properly written an essay, So, a couple of days later,
AI,
yeah, they were onto it already.
Yours was from the heart.
Indeed. Couple of days later, I've got a free period and I'm in the sixth form room. Miss Braddock sees me walk past and she goes, "Pablo, come over here." And she didn't wear glasses, so she didn't do the over the glasses look at me. But there was something in their tone that just reminded me of, something's not right. So she said, "Come and sit here with me for a minute." So, she's there at the top of the stairs, sort of with a bird's eye view of the whole sixth form area. And everybody's milling around, all my classmates are all kind of like doing their own stuff and whatnot. And there's me sitting in a chair like next to her, right? Obviously in trouble. And it changed. That was an experience that I'll never forget. It changed just my educational experience. She sat down and she asked me, she didn't tell me, she asked me, "Have you written an essay before?" And I said, "Well, not like this, I haven't. I think this is the first one I've written like this, because I'd never been asked to write an essay like that in Spain." She said, "Okay, how do you write an essay? Like, how do you normally write an essay? How do you go about writing an essay?" So I went through what I thought I did and whatnot. She asked me all of these questions to first find out. So it just made me feel really, really valued and listened to, as opposed to just saying, "Pablo, this is rubbish. This is not how we do things here. This is how we do things." She
empowered you, Pablo.
Yeah. Because she didn't just scrap what I'd done straight away. She just had an interest to really find out what it was. And then she didn't, because I've always, maybe not always sounded this British or this English, but I didn't sound foreign. But in fact, I was. I'd gone through a whole educational system and I'd only been there for a couple of months, say. So it was only then that she realized that I'd not gone through the UK education system. Whatnot. So it kind of like helped her out a lot. And since then, like, my favorite class was English. So yeah, thank you, Miss Braddock, if you're listening to this.
That is so sweet.
Yeah. And I could have dragged it on more because I'm living it right now as I'm telling it, but I'm aware of time.
No, it's okay. I think mine was, there were two. Of course, good were two and bad were many. I'm going to stick to the two because, first of all, somebody with neuro, ADHD and dyslexia, people did not realize that I had that. So there was a lot of, "Why aren't you writing with this hand and that hand," and all of that. But I was, I think, 13 in my 8th standard, and I was in a residential school. So residential school is proper boarding school wherein you are allowed to meet your parents once in 6 months. And you live there, you practically live there. So I was 13, and this is the first time a very pampered child has been, admitted to a residential school wherein I was treated like a princess in my home. I would not, like, my mother would not wake me up. I would get like things and so on and so forth. But yeah, so I went. My warden, actually, she was not typically a teacher, but she was my warden. And I gave my clothes for laundry, and the clothes came back all pink. White clothes came back all pink.
Oh, no, she put red in.
And me being all bratty about it, and I'm looking at my
Mr. Sass
warden.
Here.
Yes, I'm looking at my warden. I was like, "What happened with my clothes? You can't make them pink. What is this?" And she goes like, "This is not your house, and I'm not your maid." And for a second, I was like, "Oh no, what?" And then I was punished, not like in bad sense. I was just punished. I was told to do my own laundry because I did not know how to do my own laundry and things like that. I was told to do. So because of her, and then she taught me. She taught me how to tuck my bed sheets in. She taught me how to do certain things. I still do those things. I arrange my room like that, and I'm very behaved when it comes to setting. Yes. So that, and I would never wake up at 5. Never. She would come, and she got to know that I wake up very in fear because of whatever I was going through. So she would come very nicely and put her hand on my head, and she would like, "Hey, Shruti, get up. It's time for your, PE and things like that." So two things: she was strict, but she was very warm, and that kind of changed. Yeah, and I was bratty. I still get it. I still talk to her over the phone, and yeah, I tell her that you have changed me. The discipline that you've gotten, taught me, I would have never learned. That's one. Second, I never knew I could sing. I had zero idea.
Well, we know what's coming now.
No, I'm not
coming next.
Stay from the top, Shruti. Come on, after 3. Let's go.
No.
A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3.
I was again in the residential school. I was singing in the washroom. I was literally singing in the washroom, and my music teacher, she was girls' hostel, and the female staff sometimes used to stay in the same floor. Okay, so she heard me singing, and because I was in a place wherein I did not know the language, so I was moved from North India to South India to go to that residential school. I had zero idea what that language was. And I was the only fairer looking person in the school. So I was bullied as well. So I was just singing, and then, yeah, that's a whole thing. So, yeah. And then she heard me sing, and then she shouted that, "Come out, and I need to hear you again." And I was scared. I was like, "Oh no, what have I done? No." And then I came out, looking. No. She was pretty young and everything. And she like, "Sing." And I go like, "I can't sing. No, I can't sing." She said, "No, you sing." And then she said, "Sing what you were singing." So I was singing 21 Guns by Green Day. And after a few days of practice, she got me into an annual function wherein I had my first performance and things like that. Now I sing, but I don't sing like that anymore. But yeah, so those two things.
Wow. Amazing. Shruti, absolutely. So you're going to be the opening act now then for our world.
I'm going to sing in your introduction.
Our world education.
George will dance, right? So Shruti sings, George dances, and then
Pablo speaks Spanish.
Yes, we are the
Spanish
best.
I'll narrate. I love it all at the same time. Excellent. Wow.
So, yeah,
wow.
I think all of the teachers were not around the fact how they taught. I think how they helped us, which was, I think, far more important than anything.
And the connection between all three of us is about being human, relationship, believing in us, a little bit of empowerment, a little bit of rigor, I guess, in their thought processes. So as wonderful, and this is going to absolutely completely annihilate this episode now, but we're talking about AI, we're talking about technology, and not one of us has mentioned any of those things. So I think we really have to be mindful of the ground foundations, the roots, and what actually as educators we bring to our pupils. And you're right, Pablo, people will have lots of stories and connections, and please send those in to us because I'd love to read them. It's always really nice to kind of hear them. And I'm wondering if there is a similarity here. I'm sure there is going to be. I would predict that. And I don't think I would struggle to understand if someone said, "Oh, it was because someone taught me how to use AI prompts." I think it's more about, human
I'd
connection.
say it's, look, George, so going with that, I'd say it'd be infinitely more valuable the fact that that person sat down, or whether they did it online, they sat down with you and they taught you how to write AI prompts. That moment of sitting down and connecting and finding out
human connection,
that is the powerful learning lesson. And then you just come out with a skill to how to use technology, right?
Yes,
but
exactly that. Exactly
it's almost
that.
as you're giving people, I think, our most valuable resource as humans, which is a time. You're giving people your time. And we know
I second that.
Right? We know when people are giving us time willingly and when then it's not so willing, and you can kind of like gauge that, right? So I think whenever we stepped into any sort of educational context or any interaction, if we bring that with us, like, how I suppose, present I am in this moment. And, how am I gifting this time of mine to this person or not? There's obviously many conversations that you just don't want to waste your time on. So, but yeah, I think that is what stays with us
No, I agree. Nice conclusion.
So beautifully put. Yeah. What viewers can expect from this entire series that we're doing?
Fun, dynamic.
Yeah. Indeed. Expect the unexpected, because you'll probably get a description of what the episode was supposed to be and then see how we all just go our own different way. Yeah.
Absolutely.
No.
But I think we'll be drawing on experience. That's the most important thing. It will be experience. Between us, we have so much, a real depth of experience and experiences. And there's a difference between the two, but one is a noun and one is a verb. But we will be certainly drawing upon that, sharing some great practice. I mean, we work internationally. We go around and we see a huge variety of work and some superb practice and some dreadful practice, let's be honest, Pablo. And we will certainly be bringing to you the story is very anecdotal as well, because I think people and viewers like the anecdotal references. Pablo, anything you want to add to that?
I think perhaps if we could create a space where the viewers can actually have a voice as well and share some questions, I think that would be a part, making a community out of this. It's not just three of us with our experience and experiences, but so that it has a broader impact and so that we're actually providing something of value. I think you can expect to be part of a community, to the extent that we're capable of creating.
Humans talking to humans.
Quite right.
That's what we want.
And in case somebody wants to put in questions anonymously, or you want to put in your name, questions, anything, we would love to answer. Of course, we will not reveal your identity if you don't want us to, but we would love to answer. Because this is the first episode, there's a lot that we have to uncover. Next, I'm telling Pablo and George, this is for you guys, we're going to talk about assessment.
Look forward to
it's
that.
going to be all kinds of nice and surprising. And Pablo said, expect the unexpected.
Yes,
indeed.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you so much. A pleasure, Shruti, being with you and Pablo today.
Yes, thank you.